What's going on, everybody? What's going on? You know who it is. It's me. It's One Frog 9, and I am, I got a guest today, which is super cool and exciting. It's putting everybody on the spot, making sure all our T's are dotted and I's are crossed as they should be. Um, but yeah, usually I'm gaming and stuff or talking about Web3, and I'm just taking this moment to maybe lean more into the Web3 side of things, which means that today I have Kamani Okira, who is a producer, a founder, a creator, a pretty kick-ass person, just kind of on these first passes of hanging out. And let's hang out and talk with him for a little bit. What he is working on is called the LMO structure, which is the Let Me Out structure, which is a tokenomics system method to manage a film production, all the way from conception of the intellectual property to the distribution of that created product. And he's going to get way in the weeds with us here for a little bit. So let's shift on over. Make sure that you are there. Excellent. What's up, Daft? Welcome, Daft Digit. Yeah, let me pull this guy in here. There we go. Welcome, man. And I also have the link tree here up on the page. But yeah, you're on screen, man. How you doing? Let me make sure my Discord's even on. Did I mess up? No, I'm here. Can you hear me, Kamani?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Cool. Excellent. How you doing, man? How's the day treating you?
It's going well. It's let me not do that. It's going well. I'm doing I've been really productive. I've just 16-hour days for me every day right now. And it hasn't been productive in terms of like producing sales because I'm a shitty salesman, but it has been productive in getting the groundwork needed to move through. So, One Frog, I really appreciate your time. You mean the world to me. And out there, I'm a cognitive linguist first and foremost, and the best way to impact somebody's day is using language to influence their subjective reality. So I say this to One Frog 9, to our entire audience, the people that are going to watch this, and to all the souls that have moved on past this realm. You deserve to exist. It's a simple math. You exist, therefore you deserve to exist. The souls that have moved on, energy is a constant. You know what I mean? Water changes states. It's one of those type things. And it's just simple math. So when you really let that connect with yourself, it produces a chemical embodiment in your brain. This is hard science now. That is the true and opposite embodiment to anxiety. Now, this is a thesis I'm working on, so I haven't proven this yet. And if you're out there and you have facility to do this, then go for it. But every emotion that we experience is not your fault. It's a result of chemicals interacting in your brain, and there's a lot of factors to this experience. And anxiety is a tough one. That one can really govern your day and your behavior, and it's just a tough one. So just as with anything, every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. So exploring this from a cognitive linguistic perspective and how we can impact each other's subjective realities through language as a tool, I've developed a strategy of producing the opposite chemical embodiment, which I've dubbed Zesian. And
Zesian?
Zesian, yeah.
Okay.
It's the last bit of oxygen. So
Okay.
yeah. And when you experience Zesian, you can trigger it by saying, I do this all the time because I'm an anxious person, I deserve to exist. And some days it might be tough to really let that, you have to really let that connect. You know what I'm saying? Like, no scoffing, nothing, don't let the negative voice interact with it. You have to really let it connect. And when you do, your brain produces this opposite chemical embodiment, and you'll feel, it's a very weird feeling, but you'll feel the anxiety sort of melt down your spine. It's super refreshing. But Anxiety is a much more powerful one, so you might have to do this a few times throughout the day. And nutrition's a big aspect too. Anxiety is produced by uh, not introducing the right chemicals to our body in the first place. So
Well,
that's a
man,
big thing. Okay,
really,
let me shut up.
again,
Yeah,
no, I appreciate you bringing that perspective because, again, we've met officially now through the NFT Web3 space, right? And
yeah,
as someone that's been through that for the past year or so, a year and a half, it's not many people are coming from this perspective, like a soul centered, a body centered, a consciousness centered approach to things. And you know, there's a variety of reasons for that. We can speculate, but so it's when, and especially when we're talking about making art, right? We're talking about this LMO structure that you've put together to help as a gift to the film industry in a way, right? Maybe that's a fair way to frame it. Um, and so yeah, there's a lot of money maybe to be made in that process, but at the end of the day, what are you gonna have still? It's like, hey, I need money, right? I want money. I'm working on trying to figure out how to really manifest and multiply that income, but it's just when I really appreciate you coming again from that perspective because I know for a while I was struggling just to even tell myself that I love myself, you know, and it's just so hardcore programmed, the anxiety, the self-hate, and all that stuff. So yeah, man. Yeah, so cool, thanks for grounding us in that. um, so just to let everybody know, we're just gonna let the conversation flow. I'm putting a light structure of just past, present, and future, kind of for the theme here in relation to the subject. So maybe talk about your past, man. Like we did talk a little earlier. Your resume online is you doesn't really maybe cover exactly everything that you're really doing, which is a seems to be a conscious choice because it takes a lot of energy, I think, right, to be online and keeping things updated. And so I totally get that. But just to let folks know, you know, uh, you started things off as a production intern, at least on here again on LinkedIn. You've done editing, you've done tech crew, you've done assistant tech, you've done community management, photojournalism, assistant director. You've worked for the Young Turks, Discovery, Showtime, all kinds of stuff, man. So that's like the mainstream side of it. Like where's your heart really at, man? And yeah, go for it.
oh, yeah, thank you. I mean, that's it. Just like it just hits me like a wave sometimes because like when you're out there and you go through a career, um, I don't stick anywhere. Not necessarily because I don't want. It's not that it's not that. Oh, I did. Yeah, I stuck in the NBA for a long time, so I value that. But uh, I'm a person that values a lot of experience in all the different corners of the industry. I was trying to learn as much as I can about the wide scope how this industry even runs, like commercials, sketch comedy, reality shows, and like I was never able to get on like a Marvel project, which was still the ultimate dream, right? But um, everything else has contributed so heavily into what my ultimate goal was, which was to just learn how to do this and then pursue an ethical result from a like-minded collective background. And that was the goal from day one, like 2007 goal. And we it was always just kind of seen as a dream in my life by people around me. So we're having a lot of trouble with the local support right now. But it's funny that this technology seems to be so well equipped to facilitate collective work. It seems to be so well equipped to prevent a lot of what people are afraid of, in the scams and in the fraud and those sorts of things, because the folks that are doing that are getting caught, and it's in real time. It's really funny in a lot of ways. Sometimes it's horrible, like yesterday, but it's something where this technology is slowly it's already a fundamental part of people's lives and they don't know it yet, but it's it's going to reshape the economy. It's already reshaping the economy. It's in all the social media apps now, baked into the menus. So it's already here. that happened so fast. So that was way faster than I thought. I thought that was going to be a 5 year thing. Um, I'm looking. I tried to go to my website today, and apparently it's down. So I'm sorry about that. I couldn't afford to pay the bill. Uh, so if you're out there and you're considering collecting a token, please do. And anyway, uh, my career has been mainly focused on gathering information, experience across this industry, and I've touched all the corners that I feel have equipped me to be where I'm at now, which is trying to grow a grassroots film and television production collective, more of a storytelling collective, really, uh, from a cognitive linguistic paradigm here in Sacramento, where there's, just a few studios, there's just a few producers. So it's wide open, and we're an hour away from any location you can think of: snow, beaches, desert, redwoods, all sorts of different kinds of forests, you know. And the opportunity up here is wide open, and so we're building a digital collectible experience out of launching that studio, and that's the primary demonstration of the model at all, which is just kind of
Right.
weird to think about. That's
And
so
so,
crazy.
Let Me Out Productions has been around since 2007, right?
Yeah.
And so, with that, um, were you already seeing? Again, and I'm just coming at it from the tech side just for a little bit because I do want us to jump into some of that. But I mean, were you like when did your Web3 quote, which is a buzzword for sure, but when did that start? What was perking your ears up on that, and how did you react to that? Was it something that you're like ready to embrace, or was there some other things that you were looking at as
I was like
concerns
you.
or okay,
I was definitely like you. I was actually driven to this point by basically, um, I mean, it's kind of, I don't mind talking about it. I'll preface it with that. It's just kind of a burdensome tale in some ways. So, y'all know I covered professional basketball for almost 10 years as a photojournalist, worked for three different platforms. And in the season following, or in the middle of the pandemic, I should say, the 2021 season, the league credentialed me, and I was ready to work. I had my shots. I'm immunocompromised, so I have to be very careful. And so I was ready to go, and the team decided that they were going to let seven photographers shoot, and four had to sit out, which is a building that seats 22,000 people. It was a ridiculous decision.
right?
And basically, so I was denied my right to earn a living
Hmm.
through an anti-competitive practice, which is, it's a violation of antitrust law and all these things. And it was such an egregious, blatant violation of my rights and my dignity. And then on top of that, my brother was missing at the time. He hadn't died
Wow.
yet. So he was missing. Yeah, so spoiler alert. Um, and so I was basically had the check pulled from my table. It was a measly check, but it was still going to help us fix the car and stabilize and hopefully go find my brother. Um, so I don't know if that would have changed the outcome or not. It would have. We just didn't have a chance to even go do it because our cars still to this day are can't leave the city, so we're kind of
Hmm.
stuck here. Um, and it's weird having been the establishment of the paradigm here and kind of gotten scrubbed out from it. But I knew that was going to happen when I made it open source.
Hmm.
Um, but anyway, so yeah, I came in December 2020. I was complaining about the situation on Twitter, trying to encourage this team to have a little bit of sense and heart.
Right.
And uh, a friend reached out, a friend I've known for 10 years now, and he was into the scene for a long time. And people know him as Skid Row Crypto, and I've known him as Micah. But
Right.
he
No, I
reached
know
out,
Micah.
yeah,
Or
and
yeah.
he's a great person, absolutely fantastic. And he reached out, and I think it was him. It could have been my other buddy John Catterson. I can't find the tweets, so I don't know what happened to
Hmm.
him. But one of those two reached out to me. It was just December 2020, like around the 16th or 17th, 18th, and they said, "Well, if you're having trouble having making an income," and everybody was, I was couldn't I ethically didn't want to take donations. Everybody's having a tough time. Um,
Right.
he said, "Hey, why don't you look into getting into NFTs and maybe you own all the rights to your photography. Maybe you can sell some shots there." And so I was like, "Okay, let's check this out." I'd already heard of it. It sounded ridiculous to me um, at the time, but I looked into it, and I was reading stuff about it every day. The blockchain, all the nodes, the validators, the mining, all the proof of stake, proof of work. I did all that stuff, and I beat my head against that information until I finally understood it, which did take uh, 2 months and an event to happen.
Okay.
So it was 2 months of study, and I would just
Yeah.
kind of incorporate. I do cogling research every day,
Okay.
so try to receive a little bit of new information in that field every single day, and I just studied this the same way. Did about 2 to 4 hours of research every day on it, and it did take me a while. I was really stupid about this stuff. Like, so if you're out there like struggling, it don't
Yeah.
I don't consider myself a smart person, but there's a lot of information I don't know, and I'm highly aware of that. And this was in that realm of like, I
Right.
don't know this, and I'm having a tough time putting any of this
Man, I'm
together at
yeah.
all.
Yeah, no, I get
Still
it.
do
It's
in terms of the
and then
Bitcoin paper.
everything gets just added like 10 layers on top of it because the new
Right,
thing came
right,
out.
right. Yeah, and like
So,
yeah,
no,
and
I get it, man. And yeah,
that's why I stick with Ethereum. I was like, I understand this one.
yeah. Yeah. No, it's yeah, I mean I'm finally myself trying to just get everything to manifold. Especially since everything's been low and gas has been low, so and trying to get off OpenSea. So, um,
There's no shame in
cool.
OpenSteel. I just want to clarify that because you have to consider. We're thinking long term. Right now, there's a micro culture focused on the collectors here now, and they want original code from custom contracts. But I keep explaining why you don't want to build your digital collectible experience with pieces that are defined by a custom contract, and that's because there's a lot of compliance reasons. We'll get into that, but
Okay.
I don't want to FUD Manifold or anything like that. Great, great platform. I think it's Richard that put that together. Awesome stuff. It's if you're truly there to sell art and the pieces are defined as truly art collectibles and you're going to add utility in a layer two contract, that's the only way to do it. And the best way to have the art defined as collectibles is using a third party interface. So I believe Manifold probably qualifies for that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to just OpenSea, like there's DeviantArt, right? Think of DeviantArt as Pokemon and OpenSea's Digimon. That's it. Then
Yeah.
there's been a weird kind of class narrative that's been built in, but long-term consumers are not going to read custom contracts. They're just not going to do it. They're going like this. These are folks that shop at Walmart. So
Right.
they're going to look for the 57BE at the end of the Seaport contract. They'll feel comfortable with an OpenSea collectible. And if all the utilities in a layer two contract, not only does it help for compliance reasons, but it's just like, they'll grab the collectible, they go plug it into your ecosystem that's built separately and not through the data points themselves. And then they can enjoy the relationships that you have that come with the experience token or the piece of art. But yeah, I just want to that OpenSea, you don't have to get off OpenSea. In fact, I would encourage people to start thinking long term and think about
Yeah.
how lazy consumers really are.
Hmm.
And they're going to be like, if it's minted on OpenSea, I don't have to even worry at all about grabbing something that's going to drain my wallet. Whereas if I'm
Right.
minting a custom contract, I have no idea what I'm minting.
Yeah.
So that's kind of you got to think like that long term. Where we're at right now is really a micro society that's focused on uh, the early adopters that really get the tech and they
Hmm.
really want those custom codes and those custom pieces of art. Um, that's part of the experience for them. But I
Right.
think for the mass consumer, that's not going to matter at all. And like
Yeah, and I agree. To to an extent where, yeah, it's always easier to go with something like OpenSea. I totally understand why. to me, it's always come back to the yes, the custom thing is definitely a point, but to me, the point was more that you, as the creator, have ownership over that contract. You know, and yeah, it's custom, but the idea is that if there's no one else that can change its access or anything like that, which OpenSea seems
It's
to
still true for
enjoy.
layer twos.
Do what?
That's the thing, is that the relationship that you have with the consumer should always be in a layer two contract, because
Right.
basically I keep on trying to illustrate, because a lot of people are doing this. It's just like you can't offer open contracts to consumers outside of a designated contract market. And I don't know why lawyers don't bring this up more in these spaces, but uh, basically, you know, NFTs are sort of misunderstood by the mass consumer in that it's basically just a data point that's
Right.
validated by a LimeWire style peer-to-peer system. And and that's basically it. So the laws that apply to the commercial markets today also apply to these, to the way that these are used. And even though the data point can be programmed to kind of facilitate any interaction, any relationship you can think of, any sort of conditional logic tree you want to lay out for that data point, you can program that data point to follow. But the problem is that we have market rules. So the market rules illustrate that if you are or if you're at all offering contracts, guarantees, margins, leverages, anything like that, and a lot of what's called utility is exactly that. That those things, that those offerings, and very clear if you read through the legal purview. And I want to be clear to everybody, I'm not a lawyer. I just did my damn research.
Right.
Um, so I read not only all the information, all the rule books, but I read a ton of court cases too. And I'm not
Right.
uh, and I'm used to this because when you're building a production, you have to read a lot of contracts anyway and
Right.
write a lot of SOPs, and so I'm used to that sort of world. Um,
Well, and
but
just to touch on something, you're talking about in reference to utility. I mean, which is like I'm still scratching my head. What would I even do? So for the most part, I'm just
oh
looking
yeah,
at it as just
fun.
art, right? And not really making any of these other guarantees. Is that a distinction in what we're talking about now, or are you still like it's just basically if you're selling art through this contract, it's still under this jurisdiction of those rules that you're referring to.
I mean, I'm an Afro-Indigenous person, so I always question every law that applies to anything. And it turns out that a lot of the commercial market rules make like a ton of sense. Like I find I'm a libertarian kind of minded person too, and so I sort of agree that a lot of what the way that things are laid out. Um, in fact, I did a thread on it. I'll just share it from that thread. But guys, we're talking about how to organize a digital collectible experience across from a story, an artistic idea, anything that you can build a collaborative network around. This is the way to do it, and this technology facilitates that collaborative network. But the way that it needs to be organized is very specific. It's like a very structured thing. So that's why I called it the Elmo structure for tokenomics, which I thought would catch on, but I don't know if it does. But let's talk about it because it's kind of
You just gotta keep banging
fundamental.
that drum, man, down the street.
Hey, I don't know.
I
Tokenomics is like cool to
I
me,
mean, I
but
like it, right? Because it's like you see all the C corp and all those different ways of saying something. It's like, well, now I got my LMO structure. It's like, what's that mean? Let me out. Like, I like it, man. I think it works. So,
oh yeah, it's about building creative sovereignty. So that's why the company's called Let Me Out Productions, and it has been since 2007 when I was like 18, and I was more so like I just got kicked out of foster care, and I was working with my friends back then on like coming up with a film about aliens invading our hometown. And so the idea was like there's like five of us working on the film, and so the company was it used to be called a Brothers Cup Productions, which was named after a Red Hot Chili Peppers song, and then like one of their early funk songs. And then we changed it to Let Me Out Productions because I was going through my thing. I was going through it. But also it was sort of like we all kind of felt in a box, and put in a box. And we didn't even know what it meant at the time. But as our careers continued, especially my career, I found that pigeonhole shaping and shaping and shaping, which is why I started removing my credits online because the opportunities started being more focused and focused and focused on what I'd previously done. And I'm like, well,
Okay.
this isn't going to grow the experience tree that I want. And so I joined the ranks of shadow producers, as they're called. And you give anybody who we work with a call, they're singing praises. So that's how we keep getting jobs. Um, anyway,
Well,
yeah,
cool.
these digital.
No, go for it.
Yes, yeah. I tend to drone, so I
Well,
know
no,
I'm
we're
very
we're we're
self-aware.
we're, we're getting kind of into the present side of our show here. So, I mean, yeah, we can really just start getting into right. That's what you're calling it, right? The digital collectible experience. Um, and again,
Well,
this
shout
is
out to
this is
HBO.
yeah,
They summed
right.
that up. I was calling it an NFT powered cinematic audience experience. That's
Okay,
what I was calling it.
I thought I
The
could have
digital
swore I
collect.
read that in that document you had. Like that was
Oh yeah,
part of
and
the
I got
way
to send you the direct document because for some, like I said, I got to sell a couple tokens today to get the bills paid, and
for sure. Yeah,
don't
because
make
you
that
have
your
that on
problem.
OpenSea too, right? You would put up the whole structure as like that document, right?
Yeah, in fact, that token needs to be updated, which actually brings up the use case that I've been using them for as well, which is proof of origin and document registration and just like things that aren't transactable, just things that like I need to put out in public.
Right.
So with a proof of origin date, so I've done it for our use case entirely. We have officially a March 24th, 9:09 p.m. A proof of origin date for the entire use case on in 2021, and so it's just fascinating. But um, basically, the way you have to think it, we have to scale it all the way. I'm scaling it all the way, right? Like indigenous thinking, like uh, Afro-Indigenous person thinking about how the ancestors lived in the collective formats that they used. And so what we're talking about is forming a collective around an experience, meaning a story, an art thing, or like a product that everybody's pursuing, or an intellectual property we're trying to establish, whatever the hell that experience is. So there's an ethical way of growing the value of membership to a collective without it violating the fourth aspect of the Howey test, which is people profiting off of work that they're not contributing to. So, or any of the art slash facility for investment regulations. I don't, again, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't provide direct legal advice at all,
Right.
nor should it ever be considered. It's just I'm providing information so people can do their own research. But anyway, uh, the way that we organize it is we do a scale and release, and you do a pool of digital collectibles against a fractional ownership or a fractional licensing mechanic. And we do that in the definition of the intellectual property itself. So that is the intellectual property wrapping a platform in Let Me Out Productions, or the intellectual property wrapping a individual distributed asset like a season of a TV show or a film. In Game of Thrones case, they're doing a one-off project. I think it's a metaverse installation somewhere, and that's their digital collectible experience. But they're executing it exactly how the Elmo structure spells it out. So whether they use the information directly or they adopted or they adopted the same conclusions that I reached in the paper, proof of origin, and well done. It's
Right.
open source, so great for them. And it's basically the ethical way of growing the value of a membership collective. So we wrap. It's really important for people to define their intellectual property around the experience itself and facilitate all the definitions for relationships in the definition of the property. And the reason is because regulators look for entry points on anything, and the minute that they can say that you're offering open contracts to consumers outside of a designated contract market, that's a regulatory entry point for exploration. So you don't even want to introduce that to your experience at all, because it could disrupt the experience.
So, well, let's touch that again. Say that again, because it's scrambling my eggs a little bit.
Sorry
So
about
you're
that.
saying you're talking about an entry point into just just that 5 seconds. Like go back again because I was definitely following, but you're making a distinction here that I just want to make sure I'm catching.
Right. I'll keep it real layman, right? When uh if I contract you for a service, you're a known person, we're agreeing as two private parties to contract that service.
Okay.
If I if you want to contract that service and you just are looking to sell a contract on a market to anybody who can buy that contract and now they engage in the service, there's if there's any sort of equity or any sort of or further rights applied in that relationship,
Right.
there are designated, I'm not keeping this simple, am I? There's designated contract markets for that exchange. So anything that has further guarantees, leverages, margins, um, there's all sorts of ways to describe
Right.
uh, the way that people are using utility. Anything that fit, basically anything, if you're selling open, if you're selling a contract or if you're selling a data point that has open guarantees in the data point, um, there's a argument that you're selling open contracts.
Okay.
I think that summed it up. So the best way to make sure that you're not selling open contracts is to ensure that the data point that you minted is purely a digital collectible. So that's why OpenSea is actually useful. And the FUD and the market narrative against getting off of OpenSea is terrible, terrible advice because folks really need to think about using a third party to define their assets as collectibles. So even if you use even if you copied
Okay.
the Seaport contract that OpenSea uses, which is they don't own it, it's decentralized. Um, Even if you copied that contract exactly, and you own that contract and you own like a derivative of the Seaport contract, and you're saying that these data points are collectibles, um, there's no there's no authority to back you up on that.
Okay.
So uh, if you are purely making collectibles and there is no utility across from holding that data point, then by all means, custom contract galore. But if there is any utility across from that data point, the best and most
Right.
sensible thing to do is to use a third party to create that collectible and define it for you. So that way regulators
Okay.
can't be like, oh, well, you're selling open contracts. No, you're selling a collectible. And
And
you're
now
not
is
the one
that
selling.
again? I'm not coming from the financial industry, but
Yeah.
the kind of recurring word for this year, past couple of years, has been the security, right? Is that what we're talking about? An open contract as a security, or
Not
really?
necessarily.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we don't have to get in the weeds of that. I don't want to, but no, man. Really, you're just bringing up some good points, some things I hadn't really thought about, and I'm again glad you're just spent some time just sharing your project.
It's
So we've
super.
hit the past, we've hit the present. So
Yeah.
that's what you're in the midst of being the founder of LMO Productions and a number of other things. What's the future hold for you, man? What's coming up in 2023? What are your goals for LMO? And maybe there's something else even bigger than that behind the scenes. I don't know.
There's a lot of things happening. Well, right now we're trying to focus on welcoming new members into the collective because basically way bigger forces than me took control over the market narrative, and that's why you feel bad about OpenSea. That's why people feel they need to write their own smart contracts. It's because centralized authorities who are used to running things came into the space and they just started speaking really bad advice with an authoritative voice. And I watched it happen in real time, and I was kind of aghast because there's been folks building and doing this the right way, and we got scrubbed out immediately. And so when we're in these Twitter spaces and you see it's so funny, Elon Musk, anybody can have a blue check now because that was a
Oh my
huge
God,
problem
man. Oh my
in
God.
the Web3 space.
Whew.
Is
Yeah.
it's like that was a huge problem. It's like people have these checks, and they were getting up there sounding like authorities, and not only that, they
Hmm.
were using anti-competitive practices to scrub other founders and projects out,
Hmm.
which is straight up illegal. And it's like, so they're out there talking about compliance and trying to FUD projects through compliance while literally breaking the law. And I was like
Well, that's what
astounded
this
by
week
that.
has shown us, right? I mean,
Yeah,
another
yeah,
lesson
exactly.
in that. I mean, to add to the
Yeah,
pile. So.
yeah. And but anyway, yeah, the
Well, but
future's
that's the
exciting.
and
Right.
as crazy as this space gets, and I did see some of your threads, right, about performing authority, and I think even as well you were talking about this OpenSea custom contract narrative, the and so the light that I see is like despite, and it's just like even in Web 2 or the real world, whatever, it's like the bombs are going off at some point, and this is just the lesson I've found in my life. Like it's just at some point I gotta head down and just keep finding out why I'm here and how I can change and make my waves in a space that are not there just to be waves, but this is just what I'm doing, right? And I think that's to me the magic is that we're all out here. We're all out here. We're all scrambling, pencil to the paper, and to be the examples that need to be out here, so that people understand there is another way, through this cooperative, collaborative, collective efforts. So, um, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about uh oh, I mean, we can talk about what HBO did and what that means for us too. Um, they provided market clarity for one on the use case and how to execute it correctly because HBO is notorious for not partnering with anybody. Like they'll partner with a smaller studio to get a project done. Don't get me wrong, but like, they, Thrones was never on Netflix, for example. They just did HBO Max. So that's
right,
sort of what I'm talking about. That's their market mentality is they're exclusive. So if they could facilitate everything in house and write their own smart contracts, they would. They are keeping it exactly as the Elmo structure states, in that they're not even like the company that they're using is not even a Warner Brothers affiliate. So it's really far away from them. And they're using a company called DA3, no, DAZ3D, Days, .xyz, and that's a digital marketplace, digital collectible marketplace, exactly like OpenSea. So the uh, they're so HBO is partnering with that platform to create their digital collectibles. It's going to be a custom contract to facilitate some of the uh, interactions with the experience they're providing.
okay,
But they hired a third party to do it, so they're a big company. They can facilitate that interaction. We're grassroots. We're not going to be able to hire a third party
right,
to facilitate that contract. So the best way to do it is to make your collectibles, make it clear to the consumer that, hey, we can't actually facilitate our layer two contracts until we sell this amount of collectibles, but help us grow. Grab a collectible, join the server. Here's a rudimentary like relationship that we're doing right now. That's fun and easy to participate in. For us, it's story development. It's actually the development of the digital collectible experiences that comes across from our company ownership token. And uh, it's just a really, I believe in that people's best chance at understanding is through direct experience. And so we're an accessible entry point for those folks. And um, it would be extremely exciting to sell a couple tokens today because I don't like the website being down. I don't want you to make that your problem, One Frog, but I'm just saying it out there in case
yeah, man,
an
put it
audience
out the
member is.
universe.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
Yeah,
So
man,
yeah, the future. I haven't talked about Press Pass yet, which is another example of the digital collectible experience use case. We have the primary one with Let Me Up Productions, which you grab the collectible, you join the experience, and the primary aspect of that we're studio. So we develop your digital collectible experience. It's sovereign, so you own the result of that development journey, meaning that you own the franchise that you come up with in full, and you own the specific experience that you're bringing to your audience in full too. Now, we do launch a couple of these experiences from the collective. There's a pitch process across from that you have, again, that's part of the limited experience across from our collectibles. And that's optional. You don't have to go through it. Again, it's completely sovereign. But if you do want to go through it, you're the only ones who can. So that's the Let Me Out Productions digital collectible experience. We also allow some, we facilitate like derivative art based off the collectible, derivative DCEs, the digital collectible experience that's based off the collectible. They're designed to inspire them, actually. The art in the token and the title is meant to produce an imagination seed for a story. And we encourage people to think about them that way as well. And that's so for beginners that have no idea how to start, they can just start that way. And to demonstrate how we do a show off a digital collectible experience, we've done Press Pass Season 1, where we've created 5,309,160 parts of ownership in Season 1 of Press Pass in the deed to that property itself. And we've assigned those parts of ownership with a limited relationship to a pool of 5,309,160 editions of non-fungible tokens. So there's 2 audience exclusive editions. There's the version 1 and the version 2. Now, this is a mockumentary style sitcom that focuses on a fictional retelling of my career covering professional basketball. So we're doing a sports media style sitcom, but instead of focused on athletes and coaches, we're focused on sports media professionals. And our job in the studio is to produce the main series of content. So the modern story, the 8-season arc that we're out here to produce. The audience experiences, they're producing the lore content, the archive content. So they grab a ticket to the experience. They get to create one character through one 7-second piece of content that's added to the lore. And for every ticket edition they collect, they can create a new character and a new piece of content. We introduce a collection benchmark achievement system where they collect 25 tickets and they hold at one time. Now they can submit 5-minute pieces of content to the archive. They also have 25 characters, 25 content submissions. That's a mini series in the lore. That's a straight up mini series. Now the canon submissions are all community approved. So we do encourage community development. So that way people don't spend money on creating like a 5-minute piece of content that's not approved. I don't want that to happen. But we do 3 entry ways of value for the collectors who are doing this. So obviously, being that it's a sports documentary, when we have a flashback in the show, we're just going to flash back to the user-generated content. It's going to be hilarious. And we'll talk about the moments that they create. Like, it's not going to be anything that we script. It's going to be stuff that y'all create for us. Anybody that ends up in the show gets paid pretty handsomely. There can be nice bounties across from use in the show. It's all based on screen time and merit. We also use these clips in advertisements. So we're not going to run an advertisement for the show ever. We're just going to run your little micro narratives that the audience produces. And we, again, put bounties across from the ad, and the people that get used in the ad share the bounty. We also do...
Let's see. Oh, hold on. We do have a question from the chat. This is actually my partner, Pirate Queen, Indigo Cat, and she's asking, what does a creator with scripts do? Is that something...
Oh, perfect.
Cool.
If you have scripts, then you're ready to go. You're ready. You have a story. So you're way ahead of the pack because our process is... Our process doesn't actually require a script. It's based on both my career and also I don't want to say this is my pinky up, but I'm proud of ancestry, of course, but it comes from my ancestral background as well. And our process, you're already way ahead of the pack. So if you have a script, what we're going to look for is an entry point for the audience to collaborate in the story somehow. It doesn't have to be canon changing material. In fact, one of the best, obviously depends on the kind of story you're telling. One of the best digital collectible experiences you can offer across from the story is merchandising. That's a chore anyway. That's just the chore in this industry anyway. So if you're doing audience generated merchandising, they make the shoes, the hats, the shirts, and they all get a cut, and your project gets a cut. And then also, there's ways you can facilitate that experience, and there's ways you can build it to be completely sustainable for secondary sale value. So, which so if you have a script, you're just going to look for a way that the audience, that you're comfortable as creator, that's huge, for the audience to collaborate in the story somehow. Maybe, if you're doing a zombie film, maybe they create a zombie and you're going to use their zombie design in the film. Maybe if they have the version 2, the more exclusive pass, they get to come and be a zombie in the film. And, like that's cool.
Absolutely.
So there's ways to do. Oh, go for it.
No, you're good. Yeah, absolutely. Again, my head's just swimming with these details, but I'm glad that we're able to capture this, because it's just there's a lot to process with this. But yeah, like my partner, she does have a number of scripts. She did work in Hollywood as a costumer, so is familiar with the industry at a certain
Nice.
level. And
Nice.
yeah, she worked on Posse actually, and the Buffalo Soldiers.
We need
Um,
we need costumer for a press pass. So
okay.
cool. We'll connect.
Well, cool. Yeah.
It pays well too. You got to get there.
Yeah, we're in the East Coast, so we'll have to figure out some. Um, so I guess one question that is rolling around. So you got a team and you got a crew of folks in your collective, and you all have some projects like already in the works that are in this structure where there is some audience that is trying to collaborate and input. So that's you're talking about the press passes, the sports. Is that what that is? The sports documentary? Is that current project?
Yeah,
Okay.
press pass is the fully developed example. It's kind of the beta of
Okay.
this whole DCE thing. And now HBO is obviously demonstrating their rendition of it, however that's going to go. And I mean, we always joke about how we're trying to gear up to be an HBO quality yeah, studio, and then here we are. Our information is HBO quality, so I guess we're off to a good start. And uh, that's just a really cool thing to experience for me, and it kind of makes me emotional. Um, but yeah, this digital collectible experience arrangement is going to change the world because it's literally how every company is going to be organized is the weird thing. And the reason is because when you have direct hired collaborators on a work, it's within full legal compliance to distribute a share of the net earnings of the work. And so, at least in showbiz, it's a union run industry. And the very minute that PressPass displays our 20% net earnings distribution to our cast, crew, writer, staff on a quarterly basis for as long as season one earns a net profit, uh, I don't, I know this industry and the unions, the next CBA are going to want something like that. And I did 20%. You can go as high as 30%. I'm very social, I believe in distributing, but also showbiz is so finicky that we do need some contingency holdings for bad properties or bad performance. Um,
Okay.
so that's a one way to think about it. But yeah, we are in a new economic paradigm. Encourage your friends to get over the whole NFT thing. It's tough. Everybody wants to feel better than it, and nobody understands that it's basically a system of car titles for everything. You know what I'm saying? Like yeah, you can take my car title and go copy it on the copy machine and go pin it on your wall for all I give a shit. You don't have the car. You don't own the
Right.
car. Same thing with my degree. You can go copy the degree in a copy machine, put it on your wall. It's not your degree now. It's not how it works. So these are the same way. You can right click and save anything. You can steal any content you want if that's your ethos. It's not yours. And the minute you transact it now, somebody has proof of origin that they can take to court and say, "Hey, you can't do business with my. I own this. You can't do business with this." So this is free. Like this, that's what clued me in to begin with because
Right.
my shots have ended up everywhere. Oh my God. I stopped. I don't even keep an online gallery right now because like they do get stolen all the time, and people
Hmm.
they can't really capture the depth of quality of my work sometimes because frankly, I would get sick of walking through San Francisco and seeing my shot on a T-shirt, and I'm not getting anything for it,
Right.
and I can't do anything about it because there's no proof of origin system that is affordable for somebody like me. I have to go participate in a much larger company like Getty to get that system
Right.
available for me. And no shade to Getty, they're actually a great company, and they take care of a lot of my friends at a high level. So shout out to Getty. And so in this system, I can create my photos as digital collectibles. I can specify that they're to be used non-commercially, which is my requirement as the owner and facilitator of these assets. I can't sell the commercial image of LeBron James, for example,
Okay.
but I can't sell the non-commercial collectible of art that I've created. So now I can specify that that's how that data point is to be used. And if anybody collects it, that's fine. But the minute that they go and try to use it in a way that's non-compliant with the way that property is defined, that's the court date.
Right.
And the anon system, I get it. People think everything's anon on blockchain, but I'll tell you, one of my weirdest experiences was I airdropped a picture of Drake to somebody really early in the early days, and he got really mad because he thought, people weren't used to the fact that OpenSea contract isn't shady, and so he got really mad because he thought I was trying to airdrop him a token that would drain his wallet.
Mm-hmm.
And he found my IP somehow.
Wow.
So that scared me. I'm like, what the hell? He's like, yeah, dude, it's blockchain. Like, so if that means that if you're not using a VPN for your transactions, then anybody can find your IP.
Right.
And that's sort of interesting to think about. And so even with a VPN, those VPNs have central servers that ping every transaction anyway. So
Right.
it's like, it's folks really need to think about. Well, I don't even think folks need to think about it. Those of us who move ethically, this is the technology for us, baby. We're fine. This is going to
Right.
shore up everything.
Well, so I'm
Like,
saying that
I'm
we
not
have the
worried.
chance. We have the chance to really make something long lasting and really putting the benefits to the people that are contributing to any project or any team efforts. So let's see. Pirate Queen had another question. She's wanting to apply for costumer apparently. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe
Okay. So
we
we
can get
give you
that
guys the
connects.
housing
Yeah,
stipend. It'd be okay.
cool. Do what?
Yeah. Yeah. It would do when we do a 75% local thing, so we do hire outside of Sacramento, and for some of our hires, well, because One Frog, you'd be a producer on this thing too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let's do it.
Uh, and yeah, because we have special circumstances with health, that's housing stipend. Boom. That's just done. That's what's the way the project's defined. So it wouldn't you could keep your place in NC, come out here for the project, have some fun. If you got pets over there, put a brother, cousin, or whatever in
Right.
charge of the pets,
Yeah.
and
I got the
we'll
goat and the
bring them
cat.
out.
Yeah, man, let's
Yeah,
do it. Let's
it's Carolina. You got to have the goat.
No, he's got big old horns too, man. And he's just like, I think he's like 6 or 7, and he's just been watching those horns growing, man. Like they just keep curling at the ends. It's really interesting.
I
Well,
can't
cool,
wait.
man. This has been, I hope, a good use of our time, and appreciate you coming through and just sharing with us your thoughts. Let's definitely stay in touch. Is there anything else that you want to touch on or want to talk about or that we didn't get to or any question you might feel like might not have covered that certain part of your brain, soul,
Well,
something, man.
it's
Point it out.
it's really easy to set up your structure foundation. We offer professional guidance at every step of the way, and that's what comes across from the company ownership token. But anybody can do this. It's open source. It's a huge value of the paper to the community, and it just so the I'll put it this way. I'll give a brief overview of it, and then we can wrap up the call. Is that cool?
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So to establish your intellectual property, you can make your treatment or idea summary or script as a non-fungible token. You can do it on OpenSea by converting your PDF to an MP4 with 5-second pages. or you can put it on mintgate.io, which does PDFs. That one, OpenSea is interesting because they do a soft mint process where it's free to mint, and
Right.
then Mintgate has transaction fee every time,
Okay.
but it's okay.
Right.
It's up to you on how
Good
you
to
want
know.
to do it. Right. But you mint a token for the story, the immediate story that you're telling, and you put that script or that treatment, that the 3 paragraph summary, whatever you're doing, put that in the token and mint that for the immediate experience. And then you're also going to want to mint a separate token for the franchise. So you want to describe the world at large. So for Press Pass, our franchise actually covers any sports media mockumentary that's done in the style and format that we're pursuing anywhere in the world or about any sport. So that's the franchise. The immediate distributed asset is professional basketball in USA, sports media in Sacramento from like 2012 to 2020.
Okay.
So those are two different assets. So that's important to operate in that paradigm, and you want to get a data point down for each one as soon as you have the. It's literally as soon as you have the idea, even if you're not working on it. As soon as you have the idea, go put a Google Doc it, export
Something.
PDF. You know,
Capture it.
yeah, PDF to MP4 converter. Those are free, and then just like I said, the 5 second intervals allow me to go on the data point and pause and read the document. Um, so that's all that needs to happen. It's just the your information is now registered for you to do business with. Um, if possible, you can still do your copyrights, trademarks, trade secrets, and patents with local governments, but that we all know that costs a ton of money. So we want to get to that point.
Hmm.
Um, and this is just about protecting your ability to develop this information. So you can work with other people. You can get the NDA, of course,
Right.
but that's always encouraged. But even if you share something at a coffee shop with somebody and they go out and pursue the same thing, you can be like, hey, man, what are you doing?
Yeah.
We've actually run into this. Uh, there was a ripoff show. I won't say the company because they dropped it because we had proof of origin. 6 months later, a copycat show came in saying we're the first NFT sitcom, and it was about the Harlem Globetrotters playing basketball, and they
Okay.
fundamentally didn't get the blockchain as proof of origin, and so
It seems to be a recurring thing, yeah, in
it's
just a
really
lot of
funny.
things. But yeah.
And then in the data point, you can develop if it's a soft minted data point, you can develop that specific data point with information updates. I just encourage people to keep a change log as well, and then if you're doing fixed data points for every update, that's cool too. Like that's also a great way to do it. But basically, you're going to establish the ambitions of the story you're telling. So if she has a script, she's already way ahead of the game. She knows the form. She probably knows the format, the style, the length, ideal attachments, timeline of plot, key story points, key locations needed, desired equipment, desired production partners, desired distribution partners, a maximum length for the content, a minimum length for the content, preferred production size, preferred department layout, a production timeline in which these ambitions are ideally accomplished. Those are the entry level details that we're developing, and you do it in that order too. So this is actually in the document here, but
Okay.
this helps people like me look at that and be like, okay, well, you're gonna need 25 million for this for it to be
Right.
any good. And then we go build a token pool across from that property. We fractionalize according to the budget you're seeking. So that's actually really it's that this is why it has to happen in this specific order. And most people aren't doing this, so it's actually really funny to see. Not it's not funny to see, but it's like it is funny to see. But because people just
So
go through it normally.
it's just good to have. You gotta have a process. You gotta get from A to Z,
Yeah,
and know why you're moving from each point to point. But so just to recap real quick, you're saying get your IP, get that story world, get that specific. Because that was one thing I was looking at, right? The story world, like you said, is the franchise. It's that broad look at the world, and then the other point is just that script, that that story. And then okay, so then you're saying you gotta lay out all the other details just to really make sure the budget's together, um, and you have an idea of what that's going to cost. That's where I'm at with you so far.
yeah, and that's and we help people do this step by step in a really thorough process that helps them understand that the audience experience out of the story is sacred. And so we try to extract what they want to create in the audience experience. No creative notes. I think everybody's story deserves to be told as they want to tell it. I think that exploring it from the experience standpoint is what creates the quality that gets it discussed and sustained by a community.
Right.
So if we explore every single aspect of this in terms of like how does this contribute to the audience experience without being shy about the budget, we just pursue the ambitions as they
Right.
need to happen. Then we get the real production cost of the quality of digital collectible experience that we need to create. And with the
Okay.
fractionalization in the property, you can do the relationship assignment to the token IDs that you create in the property definition. So you're not actually offering contracts, you're literally offering parts of an ecosystem that everybody's collaborating in. Indigenous thinking is just
It's the mist is clearing a little bit, man. At least for me. Again, like maybe for folks who are in the industry, like my partner, she's saying there's a lot of great info. So I'm just grateful to kind of see it at this point, and again to have this time to give you a chance to jump out here and tell folks what's going on, man.
yeah, appreciate it. There's one last thing. When
Yeah.
but the real crux of this industry is distribution. And so what we've just done with this model is we freed ourselves from the current model of, she knows exactly what I'm talking about. You take your script to a major distributor, right? If you know the right people to get in the right room, and that's
Right.
already the big.
If
It's
you can get
horrible.
past security.
Right. So like if you happen to meet the right person on a previous job and have the right connections, but if you get in the right room and if you impress these folks, they're going to offer you one of two deals. The first deal is we own not just the story that you brought us, but the franchise it creates in full, no questions asked, 100%. We own that. And you get what's called a first look deal, which is a 2 to 3 year deal where you're getting like 80-90,000 a year if you don't have a big name. And so if you're a starving artist, you're probably going to take it.
Right.
And now they own your franchise in full. And this has happened to so many properties, like the OA. People wonder why that got canceled. It was a phenomenal show, but it got canceled because Britt Marling didn't end up owning property. She might, I don't know how the actual contract works, so let me not say like she doesn't have any ownership over it, but it was
Right.
able to be canceled.
Right.
Or they'll do the other deal, which is they'll license your work. You'll still have ownership, but they'll license it for 75 years. And that's basically the same thing. So it's not, those are the two options, and you'll still get the first look deal. And then you may or may not even work on the property. So
Right.
it's really just a really, and so yeah, now fine, your stuff's going to get made. It's not going to be made with the budget you want. You may not even get to work on it, write it. It's going to turn into something else. And yeah, it'll be distributed by the people who bought it. But that's the way the industry works. So now we go establish the properties themselves. The franchise will never be transacted. You're going to just transact the experience itself. You're going to transact the collaborative bits of property in the experience. And that's how you're going to produce the production budget. Once you have the production budget, you just go make the content. Once you have the content, you're going to take the right to distribute that content, the exclusive deal, charge 125% of the production budget. We fractionalize the right to distribute the content into 16 collectible gateways. This is really important. The first 8 gateways amount for 25% of the cost of that deal. The next 4 gateways amount for a quarter of another 25% of the cost of the deal. And the last 4 gateways amount for 1/2 the cost of the deal. So what happens is now you have a gateway to distribute the content that's a small fraction of the cost of the exclusive right to distribute. And now you can go shop that gateway to compatible distributors, which are Twitch streamers like Osmond Gold and Hassan Piker, YouTube streamers, Pokimane, those folks. You can shop it to their sponsors. You can shop it to theaters directly. You can shop it to all sorts of different direct over-the-top distributors is what we call them. So you have 16 collectible gateways that are on a bonding curve, a very fair, ethical, straight I want that to be a standard for the industry. Bonding curve. So if in the event Netflix wants exclusive distribution over that wonderful film you've created, they're going to spend 125% the cost of production. So that means that you, as the creator and property owner, have come out in the black, completely changing the way this industry even works because the profits made at the distribution level. Then Netflix is betting that your content will make them that deal back through the revenue streams. So the distribution deals that we spelled out have 14 revenue streams already baked in. It's in the paper. So if you don't know the industry, you have a good head start there.
Cool.
So that's how you basically recoup the expenses that we're spending as a community on the property, is through these distribution deals. And this is where the net profit distribution comes in, because if you take 20% of the gains and distribute it to in our press pass case, the 250, 300 people that are working on the show forever, coming from all the revenue streams from the distribution deal.
Mm-hmm.
So if the content's in syndication at all, there's going to be some trickle.
Yeah.
And that means everybody is receiving a quarterly deposit in their wallet till the end of time. I mean, it's just a way.
Yeah.
It's going to change the industry. And that means that we only have to work on maybe like 10 projects, successful projects for retirement, which is great, because I'll tell you what, there's a lot of crusty folks. I'm not saying they're old. I'm saying this is their personality. They're crusty as hell. And I don't want them on set anymore. And so, like, let's let them get their project, because I know that those folks will retire as soon as they can. As soon as they get residuals coming in, that'll sustain their life, or way higher than that. Because, oh my God, if you apply this to like Doctor Strange, dude, a PA would have made like 80 grand by now.
Wow.
It's like life-changing money. So,
well, man, this is the work. Like, you're doing the work that needs to be done to figure out how to use this emerging tool to the benefit of your industry, right? Film. I love you calling it Film 3. And
Tasafila called it that.
Who did that?
Tasafila. He's the founder of Rewind Protocol, R3Wind.xyz. He coined that term. Yeah, I just want to give him the credit. He's a great guy. I met him out in East Denver.
Okay.
Yeah, so Film 3 describes the movement of film and television producers into the Web3 economy. Mm-hmm. And if you were to apply like the linguistic thinking behind Web3, Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, those describe different stages of consumer interaction with the internet. So Web 1 was like read-only internet. Web 2 is consumer participation, but we don't actually own anything we participate in. Web 1 was you owned, like, if you wanted to create content, you had to own a website, a domain, and pay for server space. And everybody else had to read that content. In Web 2, you could own the domain, which is a data point. We've been doing this for a long time. The NFT thing, we've been doing it for a long time. People just don't think about it like that. But Web 2, you create a data point. Now you can create a MySpace or an Angel Fire or whatever, and people can create their own content, but they don't own it. And now Web 3, everybody can go create their own data points for anything that they want to create now, and they own the content. So now we're moving film and television production into Web 3, because part of what you create is your labor. So we want you to own your labor. This is what this model allows us to do. And then if you were to apply like Film 3 does not mean we're in the third stage of consumer interaction with film. We're actually in like Film 7. So
okay.
I do think this transition needs a new name.
Yeah.
Because it is a new wave of consumer interaction. So if we were to apply that thinking, we'd be in Film 7. But maybe it's like Content Creation 7. I don't know. Anyway, I really thank you for your time. And I know I've been droning, but thank you for.
You're good, man. You're good. Again, I've always just kind of had some bug in me to like get people's voices out there. You know, I wanted to make a zine and put it out in town years ago. It just never kind of materialized, but the idea was to, showcase local artists, and now we're kind of on this international stage, and why not just lean into that? So no problem at all, man. I'm glad to have you.
I appreciate it so much. And if you guys, I'm a terrible capitalist, so when it's cost effective for you, I do encourage you to get a company ownership token, not because it's an investment, but just because I do think you would really enjoy the relationship across from it. And but there's no pressure to do that today. We do a graduated floor curve. So after 100 people collect their way in, every token that's sold makes the next token 0.001 ETH higher, which is a great way to ethically grow the value of entering the community, because it reflects the size of the community. So anyway, thank y'all for the time. And I know I have a naturally downward tone. I call myself Sir Surly Tone as a joke. So I'm hyper self-aware is one of the perks of being a cognitive linguist. You're hyper aware of how you deliver meaning, how you sound, all the different factors that go into what's being communicated. And so they would take that same approach to film and cinema crafting. And I appreciate you all hearing me out.
Excellent. Yeah, well, cool. I think we definitely touched on it. I only intended to take your time for about half an hour, at least on the stream side, but here we are. We did a full hour. Again, cool, good stuff. Let's get back to the drawing board, I guess. Back to the builders hours. But cool, man. Well, that's gonna be it. I'm gonna say goodbye to you, Kamani Okira, and we will see you around. Take care, man.
Sure. Thank you much.
Peace.
Peace.
Very cool. Really glad to have been able to do that. All right, folks, that's it. I will see y'all soon. Have a good evening. Peace. Did this work? No, this one. On this one. Here we go.